One Piece 1182, the 1182nd chapter of One Piece, and what do they throw at us? They're throwing more lore at us again. Like we didn't already have enough, but sure, here comes more lore. Because it's about something we didn't ask for, but that's fine. Honestly, I'm being a little unfair. I just wanted to start off with a bit of snark, even though that wasn't the original plan. But yeah, it's for watch time, you know the technique? Well, actually, there's not a lot to comment on in this chapter. Honestly, you can tell it's a transition chapter that leads us into the action, but we're still going to have fun, we're still going to comment, don't even worry about it. By the way, before we continue, if you like watching anime, playing online, and you often use public Wi-Fi, I have a tool to suggest to you, NordVPN, of course. Nowadays, we spend a lot of time on the internet, but between ads, shady websites, hacking attempts, or even just country block content, it can actually get pretty annoying. With NordVPN, you can secure your connection with just one click, whether it's on your PC, phone, PS5, or even multiple devices at the same time. You simply choose the country you want to connect to, and that's it. It's perfect if you want to access content that's unavailable in France or protect your data when you're on the go. You can also use it to set your location in another country, so you can take advantage of offers, products, and services that might be cheaper depending on the country you're in. For example, a Crunchyroll subscription or booking certain hotels. You can also use it to watch sports events that are broadcast for free abroad while you have to pay for them in France. But it's not just a VPN, they've also added some very interesting features for threat protection. It blocks ads, trackers, and even blocks some suspicious sites before they even open. And with the current offer, you can even enjoy a built-in password manager. Their most interesting plan is still the 2-year one. It comes to about €3 per month with 4 months free, so it costs less than a fast food meal. And you have 30 days to try it out and get a refund if it doesn't suit you. If you're interested, you'll find the link in the description and in the pinned comment. May passion guide you. As I was saying, you can tell this is a bit of a transitional chapter, but honestly, that's the case for every other chapter, really. That's normal. We only have about 17 pages per week, give or take, to move the story forward. So there you go, we finish one situation and start another. Well, here we're kind of wrapping things up. The beginning of the chapter is kind of done. The confrontation continues between Imsama and Nidhogg, aka Loki and Ratatosk. The weasel, I was about to say, but it's not a weasel at all, it's a squirrel, the giant squirrel. And he starts speaking in riddles again, and it's like, oh, you betrayed me. I never thought I'd see you again in this world, you filthy traitor. He's talking in riddles, so he's already seen, met, and knows them. That's it. He also recognizes the squirrel, and apparently it's revealed that it was indeed a hammer that ate the squirrel's fruit. That's it. So, on the other hand, just one question. He ate Ratatosk's fruit. I'm dumb. I was about to say, what's the connection between the squirrel and ice? But yes, since he didn't eat the squirrel's fruit, he ate Ratatosk's fruit then. Which makes sense. So, it's a squirrel with some magical powers that lives in Yggdrasil according to Norse legends, obviously. Not surprising, though some people were. I saw on Twitter, what do you mean a hammer eating a fruit? It was already explained in Alabasta that it was possible you can feed fruits to objects, but they never explained how. That we don't know. Apparently it's Vegapunk who discovered a way to do it. They never explained how, but it seems that it's possible. So, knowing that this takes place in an ancient era, and that the ancient era was more advanced than the current one, we can easily imagine that the Elbaf giants back then found a way to make a hammer eat a fruit. There you go. It doesn't seem totally crazy to me. So people who come in taking it literally like, what nonsense, a hammer that eats a fruit. You're just LARPers. I kind of like this new thing. You're pretending to know One Piece, but me, I'm not an absolutely obsessed mega fan of One Piece. I know that. Still. Damn. But so it made me ask myself a question. Since the Ratatosk is a hammer squirrel, it doesn't talk. It speaks squirrel. I'm thinking, so, does that mean Chopper can understand the squirrel? Because if the squirrel lived through the Void Century, maybe it has some real information to share, you know. Go ahead, Chopper, he asks questions. The squirrel talks to him. They could do something cool with that. This scene won't happen, but it could have been nice to have something like that. We see a fight that's starting to get bigger. I want to say biblical proportions, which is totally fitting. We have a kind of mythological dragon against a sort of antichrist beating each other up with bombs and everything. Here, we begin to glimpse the scale of the fight through Bonnie's eyes. I had forgotten she was there, Bonnet. We hadn't seen Bonnie with Vegapunk in a long time. So we kind of get their point of view. And then Vegapunk goes, it's true that I don't know this person. She is above the Divine Knights, but she's not an elder. So that means she's even higher up. Not surprising, a government in power for 800 years is sure to have dark sides. Alright, okay. Good thing you're here, bro. Anyway, I thought he knew, that there was a fake king and all that, because he did have some information. And then he goes like, who could it be? Well, why not? I hope Vegapunk will be useful for something at some point, though. Because so far, apart from throwing out his heat vacuums, he hasn't really done anything constructive. Yeah. So, it would be good if something actually happened at some point. Besides, normally if Bonnie is here, that means Kuma is here too. That means maybe they'll fix him for good. Maybe they'll bring him back to life. That would be nice because he has a very useful power. Imagine if Kuma appears, he could save the kids since they're in danger again. Maybe he'll just pop up. Poof, poof, poof. I hit them and send them somewhere safe, or I struck the Divine Knights and sent them somewhere unknown. He could do that. Is he going to do it? I don't know. Are we even going to see Kuma again in this arc? I don't know. We'll see. Next, we have the Holy Knights getting back into action with their power-up. So we have Kellingen, I think that's it, who tries to pull a Sanji like, oh, I don't even need to beat you up. Go ahead, I'll just finish my mission. I'll come back to what he does later, and we have Summers, who's become Super Summers, who grabs a pirate ship, lifts it up, goes down to the lower sea, takes the thing, flies up, and lands the pirate ship on the Sea of Clouds. So the guy suddenly became really strong, just like that. So they're going to be real threats. Until now, the Holy Knights have been disappointing. They seemed threatening against regular giants, but as soon as the Straw Hats appeared, they were quickly defeated. That was a bit disappointing. Now, they've been powered up like never before. That kind of brings back some interest in the confrontation, which could be really interesting, especially now that we have Him-sama with his two right-hand men. And on the other side, we have Luffy with his two right-hand men, his two wings, I want to say. Because it's not just one right-hand man. You've got a right hand and a left hand. Here, they're more like his wings. So now, there's going to be a rematch. We're probably going to see Killingham versus Sanji and Summers versus Zoro. That's the pattern that's starting to take shape. Now that we've discovered the weakness of the Divine Knights, that steel heart thing, Zoro won't hesitate for a second. He's going to cut it. He's going to destroy him, I think. It's going to be really cool. But Sanji will probably do the same thing. So that promises some epic battles. It's probably going to be really cool, yeah? I'm going to take a little detour to talk about Chopper, who healed everyone. There you go. Ah, the cut was clean. So, there you go. I was able to put your fingers back, but it's going to take some time for them to fully reattach. Well, there you go. It was expected. Once again, I think that if Oda really wanted to, if his goal was really to make it way more shocking, he wouldn't have just cut off some fingers and a leg. I think he would have wanted to really shock everyone, to be really shocking. He would have killed someone. I think straight up, that's not what happened. There you go. Will he be able to beat the allegations that nobody ever dies in One Piece? Which isn't true. There are people who die in One Piece, but here, will he beat that famous allegation? Will he beat the rumors? The allegations that say nobody ever dies in WP? Well, that's not entirely true. There are deaths in WP, actually, but it's often in flashbacks. And once in a while in the main story. Anyway, we'll see. The arc isn't over yet, right? Even if I'm not entirely convinced to get back to Zoro that he's heading towards Summers. I feel like he was heading toward the big fight. That's between Nidhogg and Im-sama, so I have a little doubt. Because at the end, he crosses paths with Sanji. And the giant goes, do you want us to turn back? Something's going on in the village. Me, it's fine. He tells Sanji, go ahead, don't mess up. Sanji replies, don't worry. You too. So, they cross paths in a badass way. Like a buddy movie, kind of stylish. How are they going to handle this? There you go. And so, we get to the big reveal at the end of this chapter. Where Killingham, I hope I'm not mispronouncing that name, I think that's it, Killingham. He summons his MMA. I still don't know what MMA stands for, I forgot, but that's not important. And so his greatest fear. And we learn that it's Zaza, the goddess of rain. There you go. So most likely inspired by some existing folklore, I imagine. So, it's a legend from the world. Below there was a creature that made it rain on people. So is this creature real or not? We don't know. But anyway, there you have it. It's Zaza, the goddess of rain, with a very stylish design, by the way. I really like the design. Now it's still a bit unclear, I think. Is that the biggest fear? Also the celestial dragons, because they're a danger. In the story of the celestial dragons and the Void Century, there's a connection with this Zaza. Or maybe it's just folklore. I mean, for example, look at those little giant children. When they were under Killingham's control, they made things appear that didn't necessarily exist. They were afraid of a giant skeleton or some kind of werewolf or even an evil Nika. Well, Nika exists. We've seen him, but the other things, we don't know if they exist as far as we know. It's just like you're afraid of the boogeyman, you know? That doesn't mean the boogeyman exists. So, is that it? Because he explained why people fear Zaza and what he said. It's us, we live above the clouds, so we don't know what rain is. So, when we see the rain falling on us, it terrifies us. Because we don't understand where it comes from, you know? So it scares them in their culture, in their folklore. So is it just this kind of childish fear? It's also pretty common for those people. Does that make the nightmare return? Or is it a real fear? Because this entity represents a real threat to the world of the celestial dragons. The chapter is pretty vague about that. So, after all, we're dealing with a work of fiction. So, obviously, when you mention a mythology, at some point it means that this mythology is real in a way. But how is it presented? There's some ambiguity. Except that the guy adds, afterwards he talks about Zaza, the goddess of rain. But then they felt compelled to say, yes, there's also the clan of Di and Nika, all these legends from the world below that I've been told since my childhood. Once again, it's unclear, are you actually going to share real lore? Which is linked to the One Piece and connected to all this. But if that's the case, you're dropping this on us in chapter 1182. Some people are going to say, no, it was already mentioned in Skypiea. It's just one panel, damn it, in Skypiea. Skypiea, which was almost 20 years ago. Stop with this bullshit about foreshadowing. That's not even foreshadowing anymore. Now we need to find a new term. You need to watch something from 20 years ago to understand. And if you still don't get it, you still don't understand anything. You just know it was mentioned before. So yes, the gods, gods of the sun, gods of the earth, gods of the forests, and gods of the rain, I think that's it, have already been mentioned in Skypiea. But it's weird, I think, in the context of Skypiea to use Skypiea as a reference to justify the mythology that comes after. Because one of the main topics of Skypiea, I'm sorry, I know this arc well. I remember it clearly. I did a One Pieceology on it. You guys went to see it. One of the main topics of Skypiea is precisely not to blindly defer to the gods. That's the point, because Eneru, when he arrives, who does he think he is? He thinks he's God. The previous king, who did he think he was? He thought he was God. Because I'm in the sky, I'm God. There's the tale of the giant serpent and Noland. Who kills the giant serpent? You killed our god. No, his friend, the Indian, did. I forgot his name. Norlandais. I forgot the name of the Indian guy with lots of hair. Which is wild. He says, we killed our god. So there was this aspect. You can't always trust the sacred. So it was saying not to necessarily trust legends or all that stuff, and that what really mattered in Skypiea in the end was the people. It was the choices we made. We shouldn't hide behind our mythology, our religion, or what we consider sacred to justify unfair choices. That's it. So at the same time, he would have introduced actual gods. Which is a bit strange. That's my take, thematically. If we have to refer to Skypiea, once again, you see, it's weird. And I also find it strange to start introducing things so late in the manga. And honestly, just in passing, anyway, we'll see once again. Maybe it's gonna be something nice and relevant, you know? But right now, I don't really see the point. There you go, because a lot of people are going to say, oh, they're afraid of the rain goddess. Whereas normally you'd think, well, normally the number one enemy of the world government, the way it was presented to us, is supposed to be Nika, who's supposed to be the sun god. Suddenly we're told it's the rain god we're supposed to fear, but that isn't everyone's biggest fear. Cullingham fears it most, but maybe others don't, so that's that. So, is it a real fear rooted in a real event, or is it just folklore? Like, there are people who are afraid of the boogeyman, who are afraid of the devil, who are afraid of, you know what I mean? So here, it's pretty vague. We'll see how they develop that later. But there you go. Is it really the right time to add even more lore, more mythology, when there are so many things that haven't been explained yet? I don't know. I'm skeptical. Honestly, either you start explaining everything, and then you add new things, but you don't add new things when you still haven't explained everything that came before. I think in the long run, it's going to start getting complicated, honestly. But we'll see. We're starting to get some revelations. We're getting closer. So I hope it'll be done well. Well, and I also hope that Luffy will finish clapping soon. Because right now there are some asses to kick. We'll see how it goes. There you go. Anyway, that's about all I had to say about this chapter, which is, I must say, very interesting, even though it's quite short, but there are some interesting things to point out. There you go. Let me know what you think in the comments as usual, and I'll see you very soon on Spatchel Bros for new videos. Let passion guide you. Yes.